You don't overthink, you hesitate, and you've been calling it something else for years. You call it research, you call it preparation, you call it being thorough, but here's what it actually is. It's delay dressed up as discipline, and deep down, somewhere you don't like to look, you already know that. This gets worse, because the problem isn't that you think too much. The problem is why you think too much, and nobody's ever told you the real reason. Not your therapist, not that productivity book you didn't finish, not the podcast you had on while doing something else. Here's the truth. You don't ship because once you ship, you can be judged. Right now, your idea is perfect. It lives in your head, untouchable, unbothered, pure potential. The moment you release it, it becomes real, and real things get criticized. And this is the part nobody tells you. You're not afraid of failing. You're afraid of being average. You're afraid that after all this thinking, after all this planning, after all this waiting for the right moment, you'll finally put it out there and it just won't be that special. That fear is running your life. Stay with me, because in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you the exact neurological mechanism behind why your brain is hooked on planning instead of doing. I'm going to expose the real fear underneath the overthinking. And I'm going to give you a protocol you can use today. Not next week, not when you're ready. Today. Let's go. Here's something your brain never told you. Planning feels like progress because, to your nervous system, it basically is. When you imagine finishing the project, launching the business, posting the video, your brain releases dopamine, not because you did anything, because you simulated doing it. That anticipation, that mental rehearsal, triggers the same reward circuitry as the real thing. Weaker, yes, but enough. Enough to feel satisfying. Enough to pull you back to the planning table tomorrow instead of the execution one. You've felt this before. You open a new document, write the title, drop a few bullet points, and suddenly there's this quiet rush, a sense of momentum. Something feels like it's moving, but nothing shipped, nothing changed. The world didn't shift by a single inch in your direction. Your brain consumed the reward before you ever did the work. And here's where it gets genuinely uncomfortable. Execution doesn't feel like that. Execution feels like exposure. It activates real risk, rejection, judgment, failure, silence. The kind of silence where you post something and nobody responds, where you launch something and nobody shows up. Your brain has cataloged every version of that feeling, and it's been quietly shielding you from repeating it ever since. So it offers you the comfortable alternative instead. Just think a little more, refine it, polish it. It's not quite ready yet. And you listen. Every single time you listen. This isn't laziness. It's not weak character. It's a neurological loop you've been reinforcing without realizing. One planning session at a time. One open tab at a time. One almost ready at a time. Your brain prefers imagining success over risking reality. And the longer that loop runs unchallenged, the deeper it gets wired in. Nobody tells the smart kid they're hiding. Everyone just calls them thoughtful. And that's the trap, because intelligence, real intelligence, doesn't just help you solve problems. It helps you see them, all of them, every angle, every risk, every possible way. Something could go wrong before it even begins. Your mind runs scenarios the way other people run miles, constantly, automatically, without being asked. That sounds like a gift, and in certain rooms it is. But in the room where you're supposed to create something, put something out, be seen, it becomes a cage you built yourself and decorated to look like wisdom. Here's the brutal mechanic. The smarter you are, the more failure scenarios your brain can generate. And the more scenarios it generates, the more hesitation feels justified. You're not being irrational. You're being thorough. At least that's what the voice says. That's what keeps the whole structure standing. You know someone like this. Maybe you are this person. Talented beyond what most people in the room will ever be, and completely invisible because of it. The artist who never posts, the entrepreneur who never pitches, the writer who has 17 drafts and 0 published pieces. He has a Notion board that could win awards, still 0 customers. Not because the work isn't good, because the work becoming public means the person becomes exposed, and exposed means vulnerable, and vulnerable means ordinary. That's the real threat, not failure. Exposure. Intelligence makes you aware of every risk in the road ahead, but it was never designed to make the decision for you. That part requires something your IQ score cannot measure and your planning sessions cannot manufacture. Intelligence makes you aware of risk, Courage makes you move anyway. And right now, you've been using one to avoid the other. Perfectly. Quietly. For longer than you'd like to admit. Stop for a second. What you're about to read is the part people skip. Not because it's complicated, because it's too accurate. And accurate things, when they hit the right nerve, make you want to look away. So stay with this. There's a version of you that exists only in your head. A version that hasn't been tested yet. That version is brilliant. Limitless. The kind of person who, if they ever actually tried, would produce something undeniable. You've protected that version carefully. Fed it. Kept it warm. Told yourself it just needs more time, more preparation. A better moment to emerge. But here's what you've never said out loud. As long as you don't launch, that version stays perfect. Untouchable. Safe. The moment you ship, the moment you actually release something into the world, that fantasy has to compete with reality. And reality has reviews. Reality has silence. Reality has people scrolling past without stopping. Reality doesn't care about your potential. It only responds to what you actually put in front of it. And that terrifies you. Not because you think you'll fail, but because you might discover that your best, your actual, honest, fully committed best, is just ordinary. Not world-changing. Not viral. Not the revelation you spent years quietly promising yourself it would be. That's the real fear living underneath all the planning. Underneath all the research, underneath every tab you opened and every strategy doc you never finished. You're not protecting your idea. You're protecting your self-image. Pause. Let that land. You're hiding. As long as you don't ship, your potential stays perfect. You don't have a lack of execution. You have a museum. A climate-controlled, perfectly lit, beautifully curated museum of unfinished versions of yourself. Drafts behind glass. Ideas labeled coming soon. Potential preserved like an artifact. And every year you visit it and call it progress. Read that again. Sit with it. Because that sentence is the entire architecture of why you're stuck. Compressed into 11 words. This is the moment of rupture. Right here. The choice isn't between shipping and not shipping. It's between a fantasy you can control and a life you actually build. One of them is real. Only one. Somewhere on your device right now, there's a folder. Maybe it's called projects, maybe ideas. Maybe it doesn't have a name at all. Just a graveyard of things you started and never finished. Things you planned and never launched. Things you built entirely inside your imagination and nowhere else. The YouTube channel with the perfect niche, the perfect editing style, the perfect posting schedule that you never created. The online course with the perfect curriculum, the perfect price point, the perfect landing page that nobody ever bought because nobody ever saw it. The book with the perfect opening chapter, the perfect structure, the perfect dedication already written, sitting in a draft that hasn't been touched in 4 months. Perfect. All of it. Perfectly unfinished. And here's the seductive lie at the center of all of it. When it's ready, it'll be extraordinary. When the moment is right. When you have more time. When the market shifts slightly. When you feel more confident. When life slows down enough for you to finally do it properly. But the moment never comes. Because the moment was never the problem. Perfection isn't a standard. It's a postponement strategy dressed in ambition's clothing. It lets you feel productive without being vulnerable. It lets you stay in motion without ever arriving somewhere that can be judged. It gives you the identity of a creator without the exposure of actually creating. And the cruelest part? Every day you wait, the standard in your head rises. The idea gets bigger. The bar gets higher. The gap between where you are and where the perfect version lives grows wider, until launching feels so impossibly far from what you imagined that you quietly stop imagining altogether. That's not protecting quality. That's paralysis with a polished excuse. So here's the question that cuts through all of it. The one that doesn't let you hide behind strategy or timing or circumstance. Would you rather protect your image or build your life? Because right now, every day you choose the perfect version over the real one. You're answering that question. Whether you realize it or not, there's a video out there, maybe you've seen it, where someone incredibly successful shows their very first attempt at what made them famous. The first drawing, the first song, the first video, and it's awful, genuinely, painfully, almost unwatchably bad, and they're laughing about it, not performing humility, actually laughing, because they're so far from that version of themselves that the distance itself feels like proof of something. That distance has a name, it's called repetition, and repetition has an entry fee. The fee is embarrassment, not metaphorical embarrassment, real, physical, stomach-dropping embarrassment. The kind where you post something and immediately want to delete it, where you make your first sale and fumble every single word of the pitch, where you teach your first class and realize halfway through that you have no idea what you're doing and everyone in the room can tell. That feeling isn't a sign that you shouldn't be doing it. That feeling is the mechanism. That's the thing that rewires you. Because your nervous system doesn't build resilience from comfort. It builds resilience from surviving discomfort and discovering that you're still standing on the other side. Every person you admire for their confidence earned it the same way. Not by avoiding the cringe, by accumulating it, by letting themselves be bad at something publicly, repeatedly, until the fear of being seen lost its power over them, until shipping became muscle memory instead of an act of courage. You don't get to skip that chapter. Nobody does. The only difference between the people who built something real and the people still planning is that one group decided the embarrassment was worth it. They treated it like training, like the resistance in a workout that makes you stronger, not a signal to stop. Your first video will not be your best video. Your first pitch will not close perfectly. Your first attempt at almost anything worth doing will be uncomfortable in ways you can't fully prepare for. Good. That means it's real. That means it counts. Embarrassment is the price of momentum, and momentum, once it starts, is almost impossible to stop. Everything up to this point has been diagnosis. Now comes the prescription. Not inspiration, not a motivational quote you screenshot and never look at again. A protocol. 3 rules, ruthlessly simple, designed specifically to break the loop your brain has been running on for years. These aren't suggestions, they're constraints. And constraints, when applied correctly, are the only thing that forces a mind like yours to stop simulating and start shipping. Rule 1. Ship within 24 hours. Whatever you're working on right now, the idea that's been living in your head, the project in draft mode, the thing you've been almost ready to launch, you have one window. 24 hours from the moment you finish watching this. Not to make it perfect, to make it out. The deadline isn't arbitrary. It's neurological. Your brain needs a hard edge to stop negotiating with. Open-ended timelines are where good ideas go to die quietly. A 24-hour window is where they get forced into existence. Rule 2. Limit your thinking time. Give yourself a fixed window to plan. 30 minutes, 1 hour, whatever the task requires. When that window closes, the thinking stops and the doing starts. This sounds aggressive because it is. Your brain will resist. It will generate 3 more things to consider right as the timer ends. Let them go. The cost of one imperfect decision made quickly is almost always lower than the cost of the perfect decision made never. Rule 3. Public accountability. Tell someone what you're shipping before you ship it. Post it. Say it out loud. Write it in the comments of this video right now. What are you launching today? Not someday. Today. Public commitment activates a completely different layer of follow-through than private intention. Private intentions are easy to renegotiate. Public ones have witnesses. These 3 rules don't eliminate fear. They make fear irrelevant by removing the conditions that let it stall you indefinitely. Post the imperfect version today. Open the pre-sale before the product is fully structured. Send the pitch before you feel ready. The world responds to what exists, not to what almost did. Here's where most people get it wrong. They treat shipping like an event, a one-time act of bravery, something you summon from somewhere deep, do once, recover from, and then eventually have to summon again the next time. Like jumping into cold water, terrifying every single time, never getting easier, always requiring the same exhausting negotiation with yourself before you leap. That's not how this works. That's not how the people you admire do it. They don't ship because they feel ready. They don't ship because fear disappeared. They ship because somewhere along the way, shipping became who they are. It stopped being a decision and became a default. The question shifted from, should I put this out, to, why would I ever hold this back? That shift isn't motivation. It isn't confidence in the traditional sense. It's identity. And identity is the most powerful behavioral force that exists in a human being. You do what you believe you are. Every time, without exception. So the real work here isn't building a better to-do list or finding a more effective productivity system. It's deciding, deliberately, consciously, uncomfortably, who you are going to be from this point forward. Not the person who has ideas. The person who releases them. Not the person who plans. The person who executes. not the observer, the builder. And you don't build that identity by waiting until you feel like it. You build it the same way you build anything real, through repetition, through showing up when it's inconvenient, through shipping the imperfect thing on the hard day, not just the good one, through doing it again the week after and the week after that until the resistance gets quieter and the motion gets louder. You don't need confidence to start. Confidence is what shows up after you've already done the thing enough times that your body stops treating it like a threat. You don't need confidence. You need repetition. One ship, then another, until the identity isn't something you're trying on anymore. It's something you've already become. Close your eyes for a second. Actually do it. Picture yourself 5 years from now. Not the fantasy version, the honest one, the one where nothing changed, where you kept planning, kept refining, kept waiting for the conditions to align perfectly before you committed to anything real, where every week looked roughly like this one, where the folder on your device got fuller and the gap between who you are and who you meant to be got wider and somehow quietly easier to ignore. 5 years of thinking, 5 years of almost. 5 years of watching other people with less talent than you, less vision than you, less raw material than you, build the things you were supposed to build, ship the things you were supposed to ship, occupy the space you told yourself you were saving for when you were ready. And here's the part that stings the most. They weren't better than you. They were just earlier. They shipped the imperfect version while you were still perfecting yours. They built the audience while you were still designing the brand. They made the mistakes that taught them everything while you were busy avoiding mistakes altogether. And now they have the reps, the credibility, the momentum, and you have a very detailed plan that nobody has ever seen. That future isn't hypothetical. It's the default. It's what happens when the protocol from the last chapter goes unused, when the identity from the chapter before that never gets claimed, when the real fear from chapter 3 stays buried under enough planning to feel like productivity. Time is the one resource that doesn't reset. You can rebuild money, you can rebuild relationships, you can rebuild reputation, but the 5 years you spend inside your head instead of inside the arena, those don't come back. They just become the story you tell about why you started late. And late, with scars and shipped work and hard-earned momentum, is still infinitely better than never. But never is where this road ends if you stay on it. So here's the last question this video will ask you, the one worth sitting with after everything you've heard today. Are you going to watch or build? Let's bring this home. Your brain is wired to prefer the simulation over the risk. You've been using intelligence as a shield instead of a weapon. You've been protecting a fantasy version of yourself that only stays perfect because it's never been tested. You've been chasing an ideal that moves further away every time you get close. You've been avoiding the embarrassment that would have already made you stronger. You have a protocol now. 3 rules. No excuses. You know what identity you need to claim, and you've seen exactly where the road ends if nothing changes. That's everything. Laid out. Exposed. Undeniable. So now it comes down to one moment. This one. Right here, after the video ends, before the next thing pulls your attention somewhere safer and more comfortable. This is the window. This is where the person who plans and the person who builds split into 2 completely different futures. You never ship. That ends today. Not tomorrow. Not after you watch one more video, read one more article, build one more slide in a deck nobody asked for. Today. Whatever the thing is, the video, the post, the pitch, the product, the message you've been drafting for 3 weeks. It goes out today. Imperfect, uncomfortable, real. Now here's what I want from you. Drop a comment right now. Tell me what you're shipping today. 1 sentence. No caveats, no, I'm thinking about maybe possibly launching. Just the thing. Say it publicly. Make it real. That comment is your first act of accountability. If this video cracked something open for you, subscribe. This channel exists for the people who are done watching and ready to build. Every single video is designed to move you forward, not just make you feel good about standing still. And come back tomorrow, not to watch more, to tell me you shipped. The world doesn't need your perfect version, it needs your real one. Now go.